Anthology on the bad, short-lived, and forgotten shows and events in TV history. You are listening to It Was a Thing on TV.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
Episode 557, submission number 2575, The Saint in Manhattan. The Saint in Manhattan was a pilot for a reboot of the original 1962 ITV NBC series that aired on CBS June 12, 1987.
This is a long theme. You may want to go make a sandwich. Or even two.
I personally am quivering with anticipation.
You look different. You've changed.
For the better, I hope. Welcome home, sir. Good flight? Bit, choppy, Woods.
Later.
Leslie Charteris was born Leslie Charles Boyer Yin on May 12, 1907 in British Singapore. A screenwriter and novelist by trade, his greatest achievement was creating the character of Simon Templar, a gentleman thief and detective also known by his nom de guerre, the Saint. Summarized in the 1930 novel Knight Templar, meet the Saint. His godfathers and his godmothers, at his baptism, has bestowed upon him the name of Simon Templar, but that coincidence of initials was not the only reason for the nickname by which he was far more widely known. One day, the story of how he came by that nickname may be told. It's a good story, in its way, though it goes back to the days when the Saint was 19 and almost as respectable as he looked. But the name had stuck. It was inevitable that it should stick, for obviously it had been destined to him from the beginning. Known by his use of aliases that almost always had ST as his initials, and his calling card of a stick figure with a halo, Simon Templar used his boyish charm, good looks, and a very particular set of skills to thwart his foes, from corrupt politicians to warmongers to the scum of the earth. This Robin Hood of modern crime was not above doing what had to be done, up to and including killing, if he felt that more innocents can be saved. There have been numerous attempts to bring Charteris's character to life in a number of different media since the first Saint story in 1928. There was a comic strip. Vincent Price played him on radio. Roger Moore played him on TV. Val Kilmer played him in a movie. This episode will concentrate on the attempt made in 1987, taking place in New York City, but financed by Australian interests, produced by the great Donald L. Taffner, and written by Peter Gethers and David Handler, fresh off of working on Caton Alley.
Wait, Greg,
Yeah.
did you hear what I heard?
Oh, that takes place in New York City.
New York City!
Oh, wait. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the Caton Alley port.
Hey, did you know that Jane Curtin won $5,000 on Jackpot in 1974? Greg, I must credit you for acknowledging that New York City mention like 30 seconds after Chico said it.
I didn't want to rein in on his parade talking about the Saint
In Manhattan.
in Manhattan. But this is historic because this is the very first episode of the CBS Summer Playhouse, which means that it's the first entry in 1987 hosted by Tim and Daphne Maxwell Reid.
Live from the set of Frank's Place.
Yeah, which we know is John Barber's son's favorite show.
Now, Shotty LaRue from my son's favorite show on CBS, which was just picked up again, Frank's Place.
It didn't get renewed, John. It did not get freaking renewed.
We got 2 of the opens from that week. Now we need to get the other 3. They have to be as good, if not better, than what we've got.
I have to go through bonus for CA. If I have to watch every freaking episode of the new Liars Club just to see Don Yesso and John Barber the same list, I'm going to do it.
Now you see, the listings on Plex, they suck. It says New Liars Club, which is on at 10:48 tomorrow, and it shows an air date of 5/10/2025. That's tomorrow's date. Come on, get with it.
So let's talk about who all was in this production of The Saint. Playing the title role of Simon Templar was Andrew Clark, an Australian tapped to play the British Saint, best known for his roles in Sons and Daughters and Snowy River, the McGregor Saga on the Family Channel. Clark has won 2 Logies for 2 different mini-series roles.
What the hell is a Logie?
It's the Australian version of an Emmy.
Oh, so it's kind of like the equivalent of winning a Juno in Canada instead of a Grammy.
Or a BAFTA in the United Kingdom, yes.
His rival, NYPD Inspector John Furneck, is played by Kevin Tighe, best known as paramedic Roy DeSoto on NBC's Emergency.
He worked side by side with Randolph Mantooth. They were like the 2 main leads in terms of, firefighting and doing the emergencies. And then once they got him to the hospital, then they handed him off to Julie London and Bobby Troop, and they did their crap. That medical crap.
Playing his man in New York City, Joey, is Christopher Marcantel, a veteran of Another World and Loving.
Wait, Loving, you said? Who was on the show Loving? Do you remember?
I don't. I just remember the show.
Unfortunately, I tended to turn ABC off, probably at 10 o'clock around the time Loving would have aired, because our ABC affiliate did not like carrying the network programming. But, Greg, if you're going to say what I think you're going to say, because I'm looking at the IMDb, this might be the first time in recorded history anybody has talked about Randolph Mantooth 2 times in 5 minutes.
Oh, that's not where it was going with that.
Well, that's where I'm going with it, because he was in 382 episodes, but I want to hear where you're going with it.
John O'Hurley.
I don't even see him on the IMDb. Where is John O'Hurley hiding?
He's on the Wikipedia.
I'm looking on the IMDb. Hold on.
There he is, right there.
Okay, I'm not looking at the window right now. I want to see where he is in this listing of people who are on this show. Hold on. He was probably on like 8 episodes.
Yeah, well, still, he was on Loving. Oh, you know who else was on Loving, guys?
Did you just say he was on The Loving? It sounded like you said he was on The Loving.
All right, I have 2 more people that were on Loving, okay?
I think I see one.
One is Jeannie Francis,
Okay.
and the other, Bryan Cranston.
Well, I see another name. I'm surprised you skipped over this name. Rena Sofer.
Oh, yes, it was a thing on TV. Hall of Famer Rena Sofer.
Okay, John O'Hurley was on 9 episodes. And he's got an entry on Wikipedia that says he was on Loving for 9 frigging episodes. His entire run was probably, hey, I gotta go take a piss. And he had like the biggest piss and he was constipated. And he spent 9 whole fucking episodes on the damn toilet. That was probably all his run. And you know, if that's what he did it as a professional.
A professional.
He was a proper gentleman the entire time. He has that air about him.
And rounding out the cast as his butler Woods was George Rose, best known for his Tony-winning roles in My Fair Lady and The Mystery of Edwin Drood.
Well, what is the mystery of Edwin Drood?
Is that it was an unfinished Charles Dickens novel. Maybe that's the mystery.
It was a David Lynchian twist. They didn't want it to figure it out, so that's what Dickens did.
Never thought I'd hear Charles Dickens compared to David Lynch. Could you imagine A Christmas Carol as done by David Lynch? Just saying. Make sure to put out a cup of hot coffee for Santa Claus.
It's too bad our Santa's on a break right now.
Hey, you old fat bastard, wake up. What do you sons of bitches want? I've been sleeping for the last 5 months. So like you said, why'd you wake me up?
Oh, we wanted to hear an idea we had. We wanted to run it by you.
This better be good or you're getting a Tesla for Christmas.
Oh no. Imagine, okay, A Christmas Carol, but done by David Lynch.
I woke up for this bullshit.
Bizarro, is it time for me to get presents, Santa?
So do I give you, Bizarro Whammy, something good like a good car? You're just gonna give it away.
I'm gonna give it to starving orphans in Ghana.
I don't know why that hit so close to home with me that I'm laughing my butt off. Are you gonna give it to the kids along with the Cleveland Cavaliers 2025 NBA champion t-shirts? Why are we saying that, Santa? The Cavs still have a chance. You know they're not gonna win. Whatever, Santa.
I'm still wearing my Kansas City Chiefs 3-peat t-shirt. But Bizarro, you bet all the money on the Eagles and you won. Yes, because it's Bizarro.
I bet you Bizarro Whammy still owns a Kenny Pickett Eagles jersey. Go back to sleep, old man. I'm going to stick you in the crevice that I put you in back in December. Now you can stay there for another 6 months. We'll see you maybe in November if we're lucky. Oh, you're still getting Teslas. Oh, oh, oh. Just go. There you go. Watch your big fat head. Okay, there you go. So yeah, George Rose, who, man, if you looked at his Wikipedia, the way he died, good heavens. He was tortured and beaten to death by his adopted son, the boy's father, an uncle, and a friend of the father. This is all during a hiatus of a national tour of a play called Drood. Oh, well, I'm guessing that may be, I don't know, some sort of version of the Mystery of Edwin Drood. I don't know if it's like a musical review of Edwin Drood, but yeah, it was just called Drood. Maybe that's just shorthand for saying the Mystery of Edwin Drood because that's just too many darn letters. The Mystery of Edwin Drood, that's what? 22 letters and Drood is 5 letters? Who knows?
It's actually the musical version of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, written by Rupert Holmes.
What? Yeah, that's amazing. So, like I said, it's a musical review of The Mystery of Edwin Drood, kind of, sort of. So I wasn't terribly far off.
Guests on this pilot include the legendary Holland Taylor playing Fran Grogan, Caitlin Clark from Dragon Slayer playing Jessica Daniels.
Wait. Caitlin Clark? She wouldn't have been born till probably 2000.
Spelled with an E on the end, Mike.
My point still stands. Caitlin Clark was probably not born until like 2000 or 2001. She was on this, and she's a sharpshooter for the Indiana Fever? What can't she do?
Liliana Komarovska, also from another world, playing Margot Katka. Michael Lombard from something called Filthy Rich, playing Wally Grogan. Raymond Serra, Chief Stearns from the 2 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies that actually are watchable, playing Carmen. And credited only as pianist in bar, he has a special appearance credit in this pilot, Ben Vereen.
We talked about in 10 Speed and Brown Shoe and JJ Starbuck.
And this would be right about the time that Zoobilee Zoo was on the air.
You guys love your Zoobilee Zoo.
No, I was like 11 at that time, so I didn't give a flying you-know-what about Zoobilee Zoo. It was also those creatures... that's what they were. They were creatures. They weren't animals. They were like misfits of science in real life.
They're called Zoobles.
Whatever. They were creepy. That's all they were. Oh, and also Filthy Rich. I thought that's on the list because I remember Filthy Rich back, oh gosh, 40 plus years ago at this point. Maybe it's on the list, maybe it isn't. But hey, one person that was on Filthy Rich, and Greg's going to love this. Now we know what filled that little void between Different Strokes and Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour for Nidra Voles. Like I said, now we know what filled that void between the end of Different Strokes and Match Game Hollywood Squares for Nidra Voles.
Yeah, we know. You said that already.
I know, but I wanted to get your reaction because I didn't see any appendages being held up.
I couldn't think of holding up an appendage. Could you, Greg?
No.
Greg could have given me the double appendage.
This is how many F's I give.
He gives no F's about Nidra Voles. This is making history.
No.
Okay, if you want a palate cleanser, you could probably tell based on these two people who may have been behind this show. Delta Burke and Dixie Carter. Linda Bloodworth Thomason.
Makes sense because Designing Women was the big hit for CBS in the previous fall in '86.
We're talking about in comparison to The Saint in Manhattan because Filthy Rich was 82-83. That's how Nidra Voles made a living between... Oh, I've already said it a few times. Never mind.
No, It's a Living was a never show.
Did I say It's a Living?
You did say It's a Living. That's a joke, because you said it's a...
Oh, fuck.
No.
Okay. No.
No. You're not editing it out. It's just... No, I was just making a joke because you said It's a Living.
So as I was saying, Filthy Rich was the thing that paid all the bills for Nidra Voles between the end of Different Strokes and the beginning of Match Game Hollywood Squares Hour, but I've said that like 3 times. Aren't we supposed to be talking about this crappy pilot?
Yeah, we've been talking for a half hour. We haven't even gotten to what this pilot's about.
I'm just about to get there. And for what it's worth, the writing wasn't half bad. The acting was a little bit stilted. We begin with a message from Scotland Yard to John Furnack, an inspector with the NYPD, advising him of the imminent arrival of one Simon Templar, lifestyle extravagant, occupation dubious, with no ground to expedite via the Concorde. Only to meet a stewardess with a calling card, stick figure with a halo. While all that's going on, Simon's being choppered onto a heliport where his car awaits, As he drives to his Manhattan penthouse, bored and restless, Simon is jarred back into action with a letter from his old flame, world-class prima ballerina Margot Katka in New York City, to perform Sleeping Beauty, who is actually being threatened by somebody, as much as throwing dismembered dolls into dressing rooms is being threatened by somebody. She needs a bodyguard and doesn't want to get the police involved, so she asks for Simon. Opening night arrives, and Margot will perform the lead while wearing the Empress of India, a diamond tiara originally created for the Prince of Austria and for a time belonging to King Faisal himself. Insured for over $1 million, it now belongs to two of the ballet's patrons, Walter and Fran Grogan. After the show, she hands back the tiara only to discover it's a fake.
It's a fake.
What?
You're a phony! Hey, this guy's a great big phony!
Where is the real Empress of India? Presumably, judging by the calling card, somewhere with Simon. Now forced to clear his name, Simon's list of suspects runs deep. The Grogans, the publicist Jessica Daniels, even Margot herself is suspect. But as Fernack is on the case, Simon Templar is top on his list. After a night in prison, and with the car impounded, Simon's options are limited. Thanks to his friend Joey, he manages to get inside dirt. For example, without the actual tiara, there's no case. And yet Simon is captured by thugs, tailing him anyway, and brought to their boss, Carmen, who wants the tiara for the $1 million it's insured for. Another person who wants it, the insurer, a man by the name of The Fixer, willing to pay top dollar for it, but bad news for everybody, Simon doesn't have the tiara. And Woods might think that Margot is framing him. Back in his car, Simon finds out some info from Woods, which prompts him to visit Fran and Wally in their ritzy home. He declares that the Grogans stole the tiara because the help had to be let go, and even in 1987, the rent is too damn high.
Oh, Jimmy McMillan, where were you in 1987 when we needed you?
The real tiara never showed up at the theater, so they substituted a fake to collect on the insurance. They, in turn, accuse Margot. So Simon, Woods, and Joey reconvene to go over the case, leading them to FAO Schwartz, which was big in 1987 New York.
Oh, yes, it was. And the next year it would be featured prominently in Big.
Did you ever go to FAO Schwartz and see like this big wall of porcelain dolls?
Oh, yeah, I went to FAO Schwartz in 1995, yes. They had a big video game rack in 1995 where you could play like all the systems and stuff. And I remember playing NBA Jam TE on the Sega Genesis at FAO Schwartz.
They also had this big wall of porcelain dolls, similar to the ones found in Margot's company, although while Margot's is missing a few body parts, everybody else is pristine and perfect and whatnot. The doll seller gets shot and killed before revealing the doll's origin, and the gunman pursues Simon, who winds up arrested. Another night in jail, another poker game with the prisoners, and after a meeting with Margot where Simon all but accuses her of being the thief after spotting her at FAO Schwartz, the tiara turns up in Simon's Regency commode, let's call it. But it, too, is fake. After a call from Carmen, Simon heads back to the theater, claiming he knows who took the tiara. And while apologizing to Margot, they narrowly avoid certain death by a falling track of lights, triggered by the publicist, Jessica, aka Hildy Palmer, daughter of the world's second greatest thief at the time, Vincent Palmer, who, according to Carmen, took his own life in prison. Hildy found out about Margot and Simon, and knowing she'd come to him, sent her the dolls, got a job as a publicist for the show, and created a publicity stunt with the tiara to draw Simon out and exact her revenge for him sending her father to jail. She was with Simon after Margot's fight, planted the tiara until Simon could swap it out with a fake. Case closed. But where is the real tiara? Back where it belongs, with the Grogans, along with the Saints calling card. So what happened? It was well written, but I don't believe it was believably acted, especially on the part of Simon Templar. Critics noted that the show tried to be Magnum P.I. in the urban jungle, right down to the haircut, mustache, and exotic supercar. Tom Magnum had his Ferrari. Simon rolls in a Lamborghini Countach 5000 QV. Also, the Sydney Morning Herald said that Andrew Clark was not well suited to the role, especially compared to Roger Moore's portrayal. But let's be honest, after 1962, if you're going to play the Saint, you are going to be compared to Roger Moore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a given.
Greg, you mentioned that this was the first ever CBS Summer Playhouse. What is the gimmick with season 1, especially, of the CBS Summer Playhouse?
Well, isn't the gimmick of the CBS Summer Playhouse they get to vote on if you liked it or not?
They get a public 1-800 number, and if you liked it, then you call this number. If you didn't like it, you call the other number. It was pretty landmark stuff when it first aired, so they actually publicized the vote tally. Over 44,000 calls were received, and the majority of them liked this pilot. I want to say 40,000 liked the pilot.
So if 40,000 liked it, that means only 4,000 didn't like it. So it's 90% roughly success. Am I correct, Mike?
Like 91%, yeah.
But of course, as we all know, these numbers don't mean anything.
And the ratings for that night, they didn't help much either. Especially given that CBS's mind was already made up. NBC was airing Stingray. That had an 8. ABC was airing a combination of Sledgehammer and Mr. Belvedere. Sledgehammer was an 8.1. Mr. Belvedere was a 9.8.
Now, hold on a second. I got a question. Do you think the episode of Mr. Belvedere was the episode where he sat on his balls?
I'm more curious about what episode of Sledgehammer aired. Could it have been the episode where Rod McCary played that pretentious art dealer slash baddie? I wonder. I'm not going to look. But wouldn't that be great if those were the two episodes that aired that night? You had Mr. Belvedere injuring his balls, and you had Rod McCary as the French art dealer. Best half hour on television, at least for ABC, in 1987. I actually did the research, believe it or not. The Sledgehammer that aired that night was the one where the Elvis impersonators die by the golden microphone. A good episode, mind you. And the Mr. Belvedere was the second part of a two-parter where Mr. Belvedere is threatened to be deported. But as I told Greg separately off camera, that night on then independent WOIO in Cleveland, $1 Million Duck.
I didn't even mention what the Saint scored. The Saint scored a 7.4, landing in third. The pilot was released on DVD in 2012 in Australia by Madman Entertainment. It's since gone out of print, but you can watch it right now for free on YouTube, although it is off the original broadcast and it is not of the highest quality. The Saint returns to British TV, care of LWT, in 1990 in the form of 6 telefilms exported to the US under the banner of Mystery Wheel of Adventure, with Simon Dutton as Simon Templar. And TNT tried with James Purefoy as the Saint and Barry Levinson directing, but it didn't even go past pilot stage. Similar pilots with Doug Reese Scott and Adam Rayner, each as Simon Templar, also fell through. In 2021, Paramount announced a theatrical reboot of the series with Chris Pine in the role of the Saint, although he was recast with Bridgerton's Regé-Jean Page. As of this episode, production is still ongoing. The Saint in Manhattan, a chapter in a long line of gentleman thievery. The original TV series made Roger Moore's career. The movie damn near destroyed Val Kilmer's, but in 1987, with Andrew Clark as the Saint in Manhattan, it was just a thing on TV.
R.I.P. Val Kilmer, we miss you.
Guys, we're not done yet. Who wants to play non-eBay Prices Right? This may be the most epic Price is Right item we've ever had. I couldn't find the exact model, but what I do have is a 1989 Lamborghini Countach 25th Anniversary Edition. It's located in Scottsdale, Arizona, and it only has 6,350 miles on it. So apparently some old lady drove it every Sunday to church, given the church is like 50 feet away from her house. I'm not going to put a minimum bid on it. I know we'd usually put a little minimum bid to give a range, but I don't want to give any information about this. So I'm going to go with Chico first. How much are you bidding on this Lamborghini Countach 25th Anniversary Edition? Manual transmission, leather seats, black in color, and it has those gull wing doors like you saw in the pilot, because in the first few minutes, you do see the doors open up sort of like a DeLorean kind of, sort of. Well, not really opening like gull wing doors, but the doors actually open like almost vertically.
That is a sweet ride, let me tell you. Oh, gosh. You know what? I'm going to go with 180,000.
Greg?
I'm going to undercut him. I'm going to go 90,000.
Gentlemen, I hope you're seated. And I hope you have some sort of like Depends diaper on when you hear this number. $519,900.
Yeah! I could never afford that on my salary.
And that's the cheapest one I found. Oh, I should say that this was on cars.com. The other two that I found in Naples, Florida, there's one from 1989, not necessarily the 25th anniversary edition, with 10,176 miles. That's only $575,000. And if you want to go a year back to 1988, with 49,100 miles, located in New Canaan, Connecticut, it's going to set you back $699,995. To say the least, that's not a car that you use in daily life to go get groceries or to go work a menial job. No. If you have a menial job, you're not paying $700,000 for a car. The estimated payment per month is $12,740. Oh my gosh. So now that we got that out of the way, how about we put some closure on this episode? You can find us at our website, itwasathingontv.com, on Facebook at It Was a Thing on TV Podcast, and elsewhere at It Was a Thing on TV. You can find us on any podcast player, and we're also on YouTube, where you can subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with our releases, including what's coming up next time. We're going to do more pilots, obviously. It's pilot month, and we're going into the wonderful world of game shows next episode. We're going to talk about actually multiple pilots. There wasn't one pilot made. There were at least 3 pilots made of this series. And it's sort of reminiscent of some other shows from the past. And darn it, somebody, somewhere, some executive really wanted Nipsey Russell to be a host of some sort, a successful host. He had Juvenile Jury for a while when BET was fledgling, and he did have Your Number's Up, but this is between the two. This is after Juvenile Jury. This is before Your Number's Up. The best part of the show may be the end. We'll talk about that later, though, right here at It Was a Thing on TV. Thank you, as always, for listening, and come back Thursday for that episode.
Carlotta, light's awfully bad over there. I think you ought to sit next to Wild Bill where you can see better.
Thank you, Stanley. I can see just fine where I am. In fact, I'm having no trouble at all, even in this light, distinguishing the lines of a perfectly formed jackass.
Oh, my stars. Listen to this, huh? Here's a woman who was walking down the street and suddenly went up in flames. Scientists speculate that in rare cases, the human body is capable of manufacturing such a high degree of heat that internal combustion occurs spontaneously.
What does that mean?
Honey, that means you're in big trouble.